Hey, if you couldn't tell, this video is going to be filled with spoilers, specifically for the following on screen. I'll mostly look at how the main seasons ended rather than any movies or specials after it. You can always write your own list in the comments below. With that out of the way, let's get started with
Kamen Rider 最終回
When we grow attached to characters after watching them for dozens of hours, we typically want a satisfying ending to conclude our watch-throughs. Some endings can leave you wanting more, but still satisfied with the outcome, while others like Kamen Rider Agito's just make me scratch my head. It's one of those where are they now type of endings that I personally don't mind, though it can be weird to follow up with when Kamen Rider typically likes to have crossovers. That wasn't so common back then, so maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. When it comes to Agito, its last couple of episodes feel jarring when there's a time jump, the true bad guy is defeated, and then it kinda just ends. I really wish I could say more about it, but I'm pointing at Agito's endgame as a baseline for a good conclusion. Yes, it's a bit strange, but only because it's not a common way to end a story, at least in Kamen Rider. Cause it feels like we have multiple endings one after another, and yet they feel realistic in that life doesn't exactly have a true ending. Characters pass, threats may still linger, but there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. It's interesting in that a final confrontation with the big bad isn't the point, since we have an actual story to follow between our main characters after what we assumed was the end. And hey, at least there is a story to follow, unlike Faiza's ending.
Open your eyes for the final Faiz. とにかくやべえんだよ。このままじゃ意味ないよ。君は死ぬのが怖くないのか。
Kamen Rider Faiz itself was kind of an incoherent mess that I still absolutely love. So when it's time to end the season, well, it literally just ends. Oh, you think I'm joking? Okay, here's Takumi doing his final rider kick and then... orphanage? Hello? We get very quick glimpses of our other characters, but our final scene is just... there. I think I get it. Takumi talks about his dream, we get an artsy shot of this rag net thing, and then the end. There are a ton of questions left unanswered, but I think it was done on purpose. To our hero Takumi, none of that really mattered. Even if he was tied up in a conspiracy with Smart Brain, the only thing he cared about was defeating the main threat. Then he did, and now he's off to make the world's dirty laundry clean. There's one season with a similar ending, but it's actually done really well. That would be Kamen Rider Kuga.
青空が好きでね。ユウスケ。
Yusuke Godai wraps up pretty much everything in episode 48, and then the final episode has our cast reminisce about him while talking about the past year. Yusuke himself doesn't even appear until the very end where he's wandering the earth. To some, this might seem cheesy or too slow for an ending, though I feel it's great because the entire episode is the ending, rather than having a final battle and then a wrap-up in the last 5 minutes. You might be noticing a pattern with these three, since they kinda just, once again, end. However, even an abrupt ending can be meaningful when the build-up and epilogue are right. Agito shows light, and Faiz shows that it's okay to rest now. Kuga's is clean, to the point, and has a fantastic goodbye to wrap everything. So the opposite of Ryuki.
仮面ライダー龍騎最終回。
純粋な願いだけである。
Okay, I know Kamen Rider Ryuki is supposed to be weird, and honestly, it's a pretty good ending. I'd even say it's fantastic, simply by how unexpected it is. The last thing we see in the penultimate episode is our main character dying. Yeah, Shinji actually dies. What could the final episode possibly bring after that? Ren walks up to his literal last battle, and after we get an admittedly not so great fight, he goes to the hospital where his significant other wakes up from a coma and sees him laying on the ground. And then, Shinji is alive. He's back at work and he sees the other riders, but now we really know what's going on. Ren's wish was to reset the timeline, and for some reason Asakura's out of jail. Yes, this is still messy, not so clear and unexpected, but that's why I like it. Not too many shows, let alone a season of Kamen Rider, can pull this off and still be satisfying without feeling like the rug was pulled under us. I think what makes Ryuki's ending work might sound like a bad thing. Since I wasn't all that invested in the characters till the very end, a reset was a big possibility after we see so many killed off. Its other endings though, I enjoyed Ryuki's multiple endings in concept, even if most of them were a bit samey. Rider Time Ryuki's was pretty good too.
最終回。
街の危機は終わる気配がねえ。お前の力が欲しいな。
これで終わりだ。
So you have a great cast of characters that you followed for nearly 50 episodes. You were there for their struggles, their laughs, their smiles. Then one of them sacrifices themselves for the good of humanity. Philip finds out he's part of the organization that he and Shotaro were fighting against for a majority of the season. Their detective work led them to Foundation X, and after the final battle, Philip says it's time to go be one with the Earth. That part's a long story, don't worry about it.
僕の好きだった街をよろしく仮面ライダー左翔太郎
見ててくれよなあフィリップ
So after a heartfelt goodbye, Shotaro continues his investigative work as a half-boiled detective, this time without his partner. Despite struggling to be without Philip, he learns to fight on his own, finally becoming not hard-boiled, but his own man that his mentor wanted him to be. Then Philip returns, and they continue having detective adventures in a pretty okay anime. Lessons have been learned, the power of friendship carries on, and this ending is still as impactful as when I saw it over a decade ago. Double was over a decade ago?
次回仮面ライダーディケイド全てを破壊してやる全てを破壊し全てをつなげ
You know what else was over a decade ago? Decade. Tsukasa's journey ended how it was destined to, with our destroyer of worlds not destroying the worlds, but instead getting really upset and fighting all Kamen Riders that opposed him, plus a copyright strike after Toei got in trouble for having a cliffhanger that was resolved in a movie. On top of that, the actual ending wasn't shown until the crossover movie with Double, and there was a supposed true ending that confused many to this day, which no, that ending isn't real, stop it. Despite all of that, I actually kinda like the show's ending, that even though Tsukasa changed his path, he couldn't escape his fate.
仮面ライダーガイム最終回
もうコウタさんはいないだから僕たちがヒーローにならなきゃいけないんだ俺たちいつまでも仲間だぜ
But what if you did try to change your fate in other timelines? What if even kicking a single pebble could change everything you know? Gaim begins with the statement, you cannot defy your fate. Our characters still try, but no matter who is alive by the end, the fight will always be for the golden fruit. The build-up to Kota and Kaito's final confrontation is filled with drama and loss, betrayal and hope. Then when Kota stands as the victor, he decides to inhabit another world. An amazing fight, with a masterpiece of a show behind it. While the last battle alone was great, we still have one more episode to wrap up those who were left behind. Michi, while not entirely redeemed, has to live with his sins, as others work to repair their city. It's an ending of melancholy. Sure, the battle is over, but at what cost?
仮面ライダービルドお前は俺に作られた偽りのヒーローだったんだよ
大丈夫だよね
最高だ
We go to Build where many just cease to exist, and only a few were left to remember their struggles. After a long fight with Evolt, Sento is left with the last resort from his father, so Sento would be able to merge the Earth he lives in with the other Earth that never had the events of Build. What does it mean to be a hero?
見返りを期待したらそれは正義とは言わないぞ
Especially if no one will remember what they did. Much like Gaim, our heroes went through so much, then Sento and Banjo are the only ones left to remember it all. The main show's ending is amazing as is, and you can definitely stop there, though I'll also briefly mention the movies. Many years later, a new incident has more people remember the Skywall World's events. A lot of fans don't like this since it feels like a cop-out, but I think it's fine. The consequences are still there. If anything, now Sento and Banjo have a few more friends to share their pain.
次回仮面ライダーオーズは
タンクお前が本当にやりたいことなんだよな
From enemies in a certain circumstance to friends and much more, Ankh, Eiji, and Hina were there for each other, especially during the times when the three couldn't see eye to eye. It was a different kind of relationship that had each of them learn from each other, all stemming from the return of the greed. Eiji, the man with no desire, Ankh, the greed that wanted to be whole, and Hina, whose strength is more than just physical. Then the trio loses one of their own. Ankh decides to give up his life to give Eiji the strength to fight. Now Ankh is no longer the hand that Eiji needs to reach out for.
お前が掴む腕はもう俺じゃないってことだ
With a cracked core left behind, Eiji decides to scour the world to find a way to bring his friend back. It's bittersweet. The evil is stopped for now, and Eiji learned a lot through his journey, but he can't help but to continue reaching out, even at the cost of his own life. And now to bring up a few others briefly. Gio. Somewhat similar to Build, except the build-up wasn't as great, and the payoff would have been more impactful if literally the season before it didn't already have this kind of ending. Drive. Another melancholic ending combined with the Where Are They Now style. It's very good. Consider it a number 11. Forze. Probably one of the happiest endings in all of Kamen Rider. Amazons. I like the endings from both the seasons and the movie, though it's definitely more about the journey than anything. What would you do to save the world? Keep fighting? Run away? Would you do anything at all? What is the last resort? Kenzaki Kazuma was a normal man who fought as a Kamen Rider for a poor salary, but he did it because it was the right thing to do. His day-to-day life was sealing away the undead. He doesn't know the reason other than it's the right thing to do. But soon he starts to learn the secrets behind them, a battle fight that a lone human won long ago, that human being his friend Hajime. Then Kenzaki realizes another battle fight is here, and there may be no way to stop the end of the world. After receiving King form, Kenzaki makes the only choice left. King form is learned to be a type of undead, so the more Kenzaki uses it, the more he becomes a monster. The world is slowly being taken over by undead, and Kenzaki makes the ultimate sacrifice. Ultimately becoming a full Joker undead. Now with the two Jokers, the battle fight can never end, and the world can't be destroyed. Kenzaki chooses to leave his old ways behind, as he tells Hajime to live his own life without the need to fight anymore. They'll go their separate ways and never have to meet again. In the novel, Kenzaki continues to live for centuries, seeing the death of his friends and not knowing what to do anymore, so he wanders the earth, watching wars pass by him, becoming a jaded husk of his former self. The ultimate sacrifice of a hero who was just a normal man. The sadness and loss, melancholy filled with a never-ending battle, not just physically, but mentally, with only one thing on this person's mind. It wasn't the right thing to do. It was the only thing to do. Then Gio happened.
Video has reached completion. See you next time.